and welcome to the Daily Bible Podcast. My name is William Hemsworth. As always, it is great to be with you all as we continue this journey. Through the New Testament. We are currently in the Gospel of Matthew, and we're continuing on in chapter 2. And today we're going to be reading chapter 2, verse 12. And this actually concludes, this is the last time that we will see the wise men in the Gospel of Matthew. We won't see them again until the Gospel of Luke and Luke's infancy narrative. So we actually have quite a long time before we see them again. But this is a very important passage. It may seem very simple and something that's easily overlooked as we read through it, especially this time of year because we've just heard it so many times. But Matthew chapter 2 verse 12 says, "And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road." So at this point, the wise men have seen the baby Jesus. They've worshipped the baby Jesus. And it's at this point that they realize that Herod is just full of crap. And I'm sorry, that's just my summary of Herod's attitude towards Jesus. As of course we know, Herod has evil intentions. He doesn't want to know where the baby Jesus is. He wants to know where the baby Jesus is so that he can go and murder him because he's a threat to his political power, his prestige, his wealth. But here are the wise men. They realize this. They willfully disobey Herod and they go home another way, a much longer route, much less direct route back to Persia. Instead of going through Jerusalem, they're going a whole other way, which takes them a couple days out of their way. So a couple thoughts on this. We tend to read this today and be like, oh great, well they went home another way, good for them. This was a bold move because if they were caught, they would be executed for willfully disobeying this order. So let's think about that for a moment. It's much more than they went another way. Their lives were at stake to make sure that Christ stayed alive here. So not only were some of the first people to worship Jesus non-Jewish people, non-Israelites, they risked their lives to make sure that he stayed alive. That's huge. Just think about that. Is that something, as just a practical implication for us today, is that something that we're willing to do? Are we willing to risk our lives for what God is telling us to do? So let's examine ourselves. Let's look at this verse today. And just put ourselves in their shoes. Would we do the same thing? If we know that Jesus is the Son of God, if he's the Messiah that's come to save the world, he's the Savior, we know all this on a spiritual and intellectual level, are we willing to believe that at all costs, even if that means our own lives? I know a lot of us would like to say, well, of course, but do we really? We don't know until we're put in that situation. But prayerfully, just meditate on that. Are we going to be like these wise men and go where the Lord is telling us to go? Do what the Lord is telling us to do. Are we going to be obedient? Well, guys, this has been today's edition of the Daily Bible Podcast. And today we'll get into the escape into Egypt, which starts with a dream with Joseph. Hope you've enjoyed this episode. Have a great day. God bless you all.